Welcome to the podcast, Let the Prophet Speak. Today we are studying Jeremiah, the prophet, Yirmiyahu, chapter 2, part C. Today we will complete this chapter, going from verse 24 all the way through verse 37. It's a little bit longer than the last two, but I would like to finish the chapter today. So thank you for paying attention. This is Saul Weinreb, and let's begin. In the last chapter, we just completed verses where God had, through the prophet, had beseeched us to think about what we're doing, think about our ways. Don't ignore our sins. Don't pretend we don't have them. Don't deny them. Now, and we finished with a comparison to a camel, a immature camel that just runs without thinking, that's not trained, it doesn't know how to walk in the proper way, where to turn, where to go, it just runs. We're going to continue on this theme and continue on the theme of comparisons to animals. In verse 24, it starts by referring to a pere. Now, a pere is a wild ass, an Asiatic wild ass, also known as an onager. This is a wild species of donkey that is native to the Middle East and was common in the land of Israel at the time, and in fact still does roam in the deserts of modern-day Israel. And it is a well-known wildlife. There's several facts about the wild donkey, the wild ass, which are interesting to note. It is legendary, it is well known in the Middle East that for thousands of years there have been various attempts to capture and tame them, but they are notoriously untamable. And another place where we find this reference to a wild ass is at where God refers to Ishmael, and he says that he's going to be a pere adam. He's gonna basically be a wild donkey. So it often is used in reference to something that just runs wild. You can't control it. It can't be tamed. It cannot be domesticated. So and you'll see in this verse 24 that same idea being expressed. Pere limud midbar. The pere, the wild ass, is known, it is well accustomed to living in the wilderness. Bi avat nafsha sha'afo ruach. She by her own desire, this is referring to the female wild donkey, by her own desire, she runs and blows wind. She goes where she wants. She just runs and breathes and by the wind, by her own desire. No one can control where she runs. Ta'anosa mi yeshivena. When she has a desire to go somewhere, no one can stop her. She just runs. Kol mivaksheha lo yi'afu. All those that search her out, that try to find her, lo yi'afu, they don't bother exhausting themselves trying because they know that they can't. B'chodsha yimtza'unha. When could she be found? Only when it is in her month. There's various interpretations of this, but the simplest understanding is during only that month when she is ready for mating, then the male can find her. Then she waits, then she stands and is ready to accept something else, someone else. But other than that, she can never be found, never be caught. She's wild, she runs. This is a metaphor to the people. He's saying, God is telling the people, you're like this wild ass. I've been trying so long to teach you, to domesticate you, so to speak, to teach you how to live, to teach you proper morals, proper ethics, proper behavior, to teach you the laws and rules of the Torah. But you just run in the wild, and nothing can stop you. No matter what I do, I can't stop you. But if you would stop and decide to be found, then you could be found. And God is putting this responsibility on the people. You need to take responsibility for your behavior. That has to come from you. However, unfortunately, God laments that they don't. They don't listen. They keep on doing their own thing. If we go on to verse 25, Mini raglech miyachef. This is the prophet beseeching the people. Stop running to look when the people, when they're constantly running. Remember we said before that they're how they were looking to Assyria for help, looking to Egypt for help, looking and trying to do whatever they could to ingratiate themselves to the other nations, instead of looking to their own strength, to their own God, instead of looking to their own customs, their own religion, their own, and being proud of themselves. They were always running to look somewhere else. And he's saying, when you run to the other nations, you go until your feet are bare and in pain. Your throats are thirsty and dry, because you're going far distances to find help. Stop going over there and looking, Vatomri Noash, and you're always saying, Noash, there's no hope, we're trying to find this one, we're trying to find that one. Lo, and you answer me when I tell you this, when I tell you to stop running, you say, no, ki ahavti zorim, I love these strange nations, I want to go there, v'acharehem elech, I'm going to go out there to try to find help. You just don't listen, you keep on going out there to look. In verse 20, now we're up to verse 26, kivoshes ganov ki himotzei. However, you're pretending. Remember, the people are pretending, or not pretending is not the right word. They're unwilling to say and admit their own faults and their failures. One day, when a person is unwilling to admit them, they walk around as if everything is cool, as if they're all fine, everything they're doing is good. This is what God is criticizing them for. When a person acts that way, then they're incapable of changing their ways. They're incapable of recognizing their problem. And in such a case, they're very open to extreme embarrassment and shame when it becomes revealed and obvious that they're not as holy as they claim to be, as they think they are. It reminds me of a president, let's say, I don't know, Nixon, who, was in an honored position, in a powerful position, in a strong position, denying that he did anything wrong, but then all of a sudden the shame is revealed, and then then there's a huge letdown. So that's what it's saying in this next verse. Kivoshes ganav ki motzei. The embarrassment that's going to come to you is like the embarrassment of a thief when he's found out to be a thief. The Radak points out that this is a ganav is the type of thief who sneaks, who hides, who pretends he's an upstanding citizen, but he hides in secret, as opposed to a gazlan, which is another word that refers to an open thief. I'm a bandit, El Chapo. Everybody knows that I'm a drug lord. Everyone knows that I'm a bandit. But a ganav is someone who pretends to be. Pretends to themselves and to the public that he's an upstanding citizen, but then when he's found out to be a true ganav, then this tremendous embarrassment. Kain hovishu beis Yisrael. That is the type of embarrassment that's going to come to the house of Israel and to everyone. Hema, they, the people themselves, malchehem, their kings, sarim, their officers, v'kohanim, their priests, uneviim, and their prophets, meaning here their false prophets. All of them will be ashamed and embarrassed when it becomes revealed who they really are. And what do you keep on doing? Omrim la'etz aviata. In order to ingratiate yourselves to the other nations and try to get help from them, you act like them, you start doing their customs, you start even worshiping and believing like them. You're going to the wood and saying, this tree, you are my father. Le'evan, you're going to a stone, a statue, at yelitanu, saying, you gave birth to us. You should know better. These gods, these are the gods and ways of worship of those other people. You should know better. Kifanu elai oref filoponim. You turned your back to me, not your face. You turned your back to me and ran away and looked to other places, rather than turn your face towards me and come towards me and look towards me, God, for help. And then, after all this behavior, when you have bad stuff going on and things aren't going well, what do you say? Yomru, that's when they say, Kuma v'hoshienu, come save us. At that time, what am I going to say? God says, verse 28, you're going to turn to me only when it's bad times, but in your actual behavior, you're constantly running everywhere else but towards me. That God that you made for yourself, that statue, that idol, where is that God? Is he going to come save you when things are bad? No, you're turning to me. You know they're not going to save you. They can't do anything. Ki mispar orecha hayu Elohecha Yehuda. You have had so many gods, as many as there are cities in your land. That's how many gods you've had. Every city had their own god, this god, that god, the other god. And when push comes to shove, they're not there for you because they cannot help you. Verse 29, Lama torivo Eli, why do you have a case against me? Riv, we have seen many times. It means an argument, but more of a legal argument. In other words, what case do you have against me? You don't have a case against me. Kulchem pshatem bi. All of you have rebelled against me, Om Adonai, says God. You have nothing against me. I've been good. And even when I struck you, even when I punished you, it was in an attempt to make you turn around, to make you realize your mistakes. And now I regret even punishing you, God says in verse 30. When I struck you and your sons and your children, it was for nothing. It was useless, because musar lo lekachu, you didn't even learn the lessons that I was trying to teach you. Literally, this means your swords ate your prophets, like a lion that destroys. Now, most of the commentaries, Rashi, for example, Metzudos, most of them understand this to mean that you were so rebellious that you took your swords and killed the prophets, like the story of the prophet Zechariah, and as the rabbis teach us, happened to the prophet Isaiah, who was killed by the king Menashe. That's at least tradition. And maybe the prophet Uriah, but so that's what it's a reference to, that you killed your prophets. You didn't want to listen to the lessons that they were teaching you. Musar lo lekacho. The Radak had a little different understanding, which he quotes in the name of his father. The Radak understands it is that the Nevi'echem, your prophets, when God refers to your prophets, not my prophets, not God's prophets, but your prophets, that refers to the false prophets that people were following. And Ochla charbechem Nevi'echem, your swords destroyed them because they caused you to become killers. So your false prophets caused you to kill them. Your false prophets turned you into a killer people, which kind of fits with some of the verses we're going to see later on when it talks about in verse 34, but we'll get there. But so that would be just another understanding. Just real quick, verse 34, we mentioned how the people have become killers. They become responsible for the deaths of everyone. So that would be how the deaths of the people that did not deserve it. So that would be another understanding of Ochla Charbachem Nevi'echem. But the simple explanation is the first one that I mentioned, that that even though it says your prophets, it means the prophets that I sent to you to teach you the right way, you killed them by sword. Verse 31, Hador atem re'u divar Adonai. Hador, this nation. This generation. I'm sorry. It's like an exclamation. Radak explains. It's like Hador, calling out, you generation. Atem re'u, you see the word of God. Hamidbar ha'yisi li Yisrael. Have I been like a desert to the people of Israel? In other words, I provided you with everything you needed. I'm not asking you to live and be with me, and I don't provide you anything, as if I was a desert that doesn't provide water, that doesn't provide food and farmland. Im eretz ma'peliyah, am I a dark land, a land that gets no sun, a land where you can't grow crops? Is that the way I treated you? No, I brought you to a land that was good. You had what you needed. I provided you for your needs. So look, Madua Amru Ami, why is it that my nation said, Radnu, we have gone down, we have left you, God. Lo navo ode lacha, why is it that they're saying we don't want to come to you, God, anymore? This word Radnu has many ways of understanding it. What God is saying here, have I not provided for you? Why did you tell me Radnu? Rashi understands it, and I really like this one, as separate, from the language of harod pat. We see in The Talmud uses the term very often. One who separates bread from the oven is a rodepat minatanor. So, and he understands this. Madua amru ami radnu. Why is it that my nation says we have separated ourselves from you? We've gone. We left you, God. No lo navo elacha. We no longer will come to you. Another way the Radak understands this from a language of raid, as a language of leadership. And it's saying, Madua Amru Ami Radnu. We have then the understanding of this verse would be, why is it that my nation said, we have already appointed our leaders, we have our own kings, we have our own officers, we have our own priests, we don't need you anymore, God. That's another way of understanding it. A third way of understanding it is possibly I didn't see this in any of the commentaries, but I would like to compare it to in Genesis, in Bereshit 27, that's chapter 27, verse 40, where Isaac is talking to his son Esau, who walked in after Jacob stole the blessings. And Esau was very upset, and he cried, and he begged his father, give me some blessing. And Yitzchak said, okay, I'll say something. And one of the things he said was, in verse 40, Al charbecha tichya, you will live by your sword. V'yet achicha tavod, you will be subservient to your brother. V'hayok asher tarid, and it will be when you rebel against your brother. I'm translating it as rebel. Ufarakto ulo me'al tzavracha, you will overthrow his yoke. I think that language tarid, raid, is the same root as the word here, radnu, raid. So then you would translate it as follows: Madua amru ami radnu. Why is it that my nation has said we have rebelled against you, God? Lo novo ela od elacha. We will no longer come to you. That would be another way of understanding this. Just to add as a possible interpretation of the word. So why is it that you say this, that we're never going to come to you anymore? Let's go to verse 32. Hatishkach bistula edya. Does a young girl forget what special clothing she chose out for herself, what special clothing she wears? A young woman is proud of how she dresses, herself, how she adorns herself, her jewelry, etc. These are something that she's proud of. And kala kishura, does a bride forget her gowns, her dresses, the things that she wears? But my nation, they forgot about me. They should look at me. God is saying, I am their pride, I am their joy, I am what makes them special. I am how they look to the rest of the world. This is what we have to offer, but you have forgotten me. A young girl doesn't forget her dress, but you've forgotten your God. Yomim ein misbar, you've forgotten me for so long, I can't even count anymore how long it's been since you've remembered me. Ma teitivi darkech levakesh ahava. How much have you tried to change your ways in order to search out love in other places? You're constantly looking for approval from all of the nations that surround you, that you've adopted their ways, changed your ways, done so many things in order to try to get their favor, and it's never going to work. Lochein gam es haraos limadet. Not only have you didn't just learn how to talk to them, learn their language, find out what kind of gifts they like, but you've even adopted their evil practices. You've adopted their bad ways. Limadet Esther Achayach, you've learned your ways. And what was those bad ways? To oppress the poor. The main thing that you have that's different about you is that you're supposed to have learned justice, righteousness, how to treat the poor, but you've even learned their bad ways. You've taken it and you've become evil people like them. This is the key to the problem of going to places that don't share your values for help rather than turning to God, because you adopt their evil ways. Because as he says, once you learn their bad ways, what happens? Verse 34, Gam bichnofayach nimtzu dam nafshos evyonim nikiyim. Once you've adopted their bad ways, it's become so ingrained in you to oppress people that are innocent, to take advantage of the poor that don't deserve it, that your clothing gets soaked in the blood of the people who you destroyed, the lives that you destroyed. You've become corrupt. Lo b'machteres mitzasim. You have not found them the people that you're making suffer are not people that you have found in a tunnel trying to sneak up on you. They weren't. That's the example of a person who you're allowed to harm. When they come to harm you, you can harm them. But these people are innocent, and you've oppressed them, you've hurt them, to the extent that your clothing itself is, and we've had this in several other prophets before, the clothing itself that you walk around and you wear is soaked in your guilty ways. Ki al kol eila, and these last four words of the verse 34 are really according to the Radak in introduction to verse 35, because on all of these things I have rebuked you, I have taught you, I have told you, but still, and I have pointed out your bad ways, but still vatomri, still what you say, kini kesi, is still what you're saying is that no, I am innocent. And you're saying, Achshav apo mimeni, God won't be angry at me, He'll be fine with me. Hineni nishpat, right? You're simply not admitting your mistakes. No matter how many times I point out your mistakes, you're still walking around saying, I'm innocent, I'm fine. God's gonna not be mad at me. He's gonna treat me well. Hineni, however, God says, Nishpatosach, I will take judgment on you. Why? Al amrech lo chatasi, because of what you're stating, and that is that you keep on stating, I did not sin. The key here is that that what God is saying is that it's one thing to sin. And I understand people sin, and you could come back and you could turn around. But God emphasized this so many times through his prophet Jeremiah, this chapter, that's not what it is. The issue here is that you refuse to admit that you sin. You double down. When somebody points out that you did something wrong, instead of saying, instead of recognizing, you're right, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, and trying to improve yourself, in which case I would certainly give you that opportunity. What you do is amrech lo chatasi. You say, no, I didn't sin, I'm fine, and God's going to treat me well. This arrogance, this incredible arrogance, is what God is so upset about. Matezli ma'od. We're at verse 36 now. Again, emphasizing how the people changed themselves in order to try to ingratiate themselves to those other powers of the world, rather than looking towards God. Matezli could mean, how much have you went down? Have you went down? This could mean literally go down, as some of the commentaries say. Go down meaning going down to Egypt, because Egypt is often considered going down. To change your ways in order to learn their ways, to try to get help from them. Matezli ma'od, according to Rashi, means from the root of the word zol, or cheap, or zilzol. Something which is base and lowly. So matezli ma'od, I love the translation that the JPS uses here. How much have you cheapened yourselves? L'shanos es darkech, to change your ways. You've cheapened yourselves. You've made yourselves into nothing. You're such a valuable people. You have something so valuable and so beautiful to contribute and to be proud of, but instead you cheapened yourselves and just tried to imitate them. So therefore, gam mi Mitzrayim tevoshi, you will even be more embarrassed than the people of Egypt. Or gam kasher bosh me'ashur, in the same way you are embarrassed from Assyria before, because the Assyrian assault was behind them now, and the Assyrians destroyed the northern kingdom and destroyed most of the southern kingdom. You're going down to Egypt to get help. You're going to be embarrassed from them too. Gam me'et zet teitzi, also from this. This is verse 37, the last verse. Even from this place you will go out, meaning even from the place where you're going to seek for help. You're seeking help from Egypt, you're seeking help from these other nations. Even from there you're going to end up leaving. In other words, you're going to end up leaving empty-handed. Your hands will be on your heads, just like a person puts his hands on his head when he's distraught and, oh no, what am I going to do? That's where your hands are going to be. You're going to go and you're not going to get the help that you're looking for. Why? God is disgusted with the things you place your faith in. You place your faith into everything else, and you try to trust and look for help everywhere else. You will not find success in those with those places, and therefore you will leave empty-handed from there too. I know this was a little longer than usual, but we did just finish chapter 2. Thank you so much for studying Jeremiah chapter 2 together. Looking forward to moving on to studying chapter 3 together as well.